ritualistic killing of a 46-year-old president by receiving a deadly wound in his head. By the way, these three highways go right into Highway 77. We mentioned that number before. We're going to see it again. In fact, the Kennedy slaying in 1963 was actually part of a very active assassination period in the United States of America. We have John Fitzgerald Kennedy, we have Martin Luther King, we have Robert Kennedy, all within the space of about 5 or 6 years, all of them being assassinated. All of them, there's conspiracy theories that abound, but I just think it's interesting that their last names begin with the letter K. You have 3 Ks. K is the 11th letter in the English alphabet, and 11 and 11 and 11 is 33. We're dealing with that number 11. We're dealing with the number 33. So let's go to something that John Kennedy wanted done. He said, we have to send a man to the moon. So 6 years later, they send Apollo 11 to the moon. And these 3 astronauts go to the moon. And it just so happens that Edwin Aldrin, one of the men who stepped on the moon, just happens to be a high-ranking Freemason. 33 minutes after Edwin Aldrin steps on the moon, exactly 33 minutes after he steps on the moon, he is carrying with him a communion set. And he performs a ritualistic communion. Now, you need to understand this. I believe in taking communion as a Christian. I believe that it shows the death of our Lord until He comes. But in the occult world, when they have the wafer, that to them is the God who was sacrificed, the God who was killed, and they believe that they're literally drinking His blood. This is what's done 33 minutes after these men land on the moon. 11 and 33, and a ceremony that marks the ritualistic murder or assassination or slaying by a head wound of the God who is dead and is about to rise again. And then let's jump forward 11 years to 1980, and you have a man by that crazy man, one of these lone nuts like Oswald or Sirhan or any of these other lone nuts that are out there. You have a guy by the name of John Hinckley Jr. Now, this is interesting. If you want to believe in conspiracy theories, here's a good one to jump on. John Hinckley Jr. was, put out in the news press and the TV news and everything like that. A lone nut. We don't know who this guy is. We've never heard of him before. That's not really true. John Hinckley Jr., you know who his dad was? John Hinckley Sr. John Hinckley Sr. just happened to be really good friends with a guy by the name of George Herbert Walker Bush, the guy who used to run the CIA. In fact, they were not just friends, they were business associates at one time. In fact, you say, well, friends, George Herbert Walker Bush and John Hinckley Sr. was scheduled to have dinner the same day that Ronald Reagan was shot by John Hinckley Jr. So if you're looking for a conspiracy theory, there's a pretty good one to jump on. When did this happen? It happened in Washington, D.C., where all these Masonic things are. What day did this happen? March the 30th, 3:30. Now remember that. Remember that number. We're going to see it again. Let's jump forward a few years. Waco, Texas. The Branch Davidian compound, located just a few miles away from Highway 77 that goes through Dallas, and starts down and way down and close to Mexico and goes up through Waco, and then it goes up to Dallas, and you have the Branch Davidian compound where all these people were murdered, including children, because of an evil cult leader named David Koresh. Now let me fill you in. That was not his real name. I don't remember what his real name was, but he called himself David Koresh. Why did he call himself that? Because David Koresh believed that he was the return of a Messiah. He called himself David because that's what Ezekiel refers to the Messiah as, David. He calls himself Koresh. That's the Hebrew word for Cyrus. The prophecy of Cyrus, I believe it's in the book of Isaiah, says that, or Jeremiah, or one of the two, says that Cyrus is going to come and take over the world. And so David believed that he was David Koresh. And he was murdered right close to Highway 77. He just happened to be 33 years old. Maybe it's a coincidence. A year later, supposedly in protest to the destruction of the Branch Davidian compound in Waco, Texas, here we got another lone nut again, okay, by the name of Timothy McVeigh, who decides all on his own, maybe with a little help from Terry Nichols, and maybe some other people behind the scenes. He decides to blow up a building that, let's see, Highway 7 goes through Waco, Highway 77 runs through Dallas, and then Highway 77 goes right up through Oklahoma City. And just a few blocks away, you have the Alfred P. Murrah building. Alfred P. Murrah was a 33rd degree Freemason, and they built this building with his name on it, with 3 rows of columns and that support the building. And in each row there was exactly 11 columns in this building. 33. So these bombs go... By the way, you want another conspiracy theory to jump on? Let's not forget that on the day that we were all watching this on the news, after the news came out and we saw this damaged building, and they were trying to get into rescue, and the news reporters were there, they were telling everybody, get out, leave, flee the air. Why were they doing that? They said, well, we found more bombs. We found bombs in the building. We have to get everybody out. So everybody's, reporters with microphones running down the street telling, we have to get out of here. And then all of a sudden, hours later, they said, what bombs? What are you talking? I'm sorry, what? No speak English. All of a sudden, there's no bombs in the building. If you want another conspiracy theory to jump on that one. Okay? I remember it well. So they find the lone nut, Timothy McVeigh. Yeah, this guy's responsible for all of it. Didn't have hardly any help whatsoever. They arrested him, they tried him, they convicted him, they sentenced him to death. And he was supposed to die, let's see, his birthday. He was supposed to die sometime in April, but they said, no, wait. We can't do it now. We're going to hold off his execution just a little while. We have to go through some notes. We have to look through some papers first to make sure we're doing this right. So they waited until after his 33rd birthday. Then, of course, they lay him on a table that looks like this, and he's sacrificed. You see a pattern here? There's a pattern. There's something that... When you look back and you see these patterns, when something else happens, you go, okay, that's next in line. That's the next step that is taking us to hell. And Mystery Babylon is running the entire show here. She is going to try to give the world over to Lucifer, who wants to rule and reign as God. And then we have the big 11. September 11th, 2001. We have this giant, these two towers that look like a gigantic number 11. And let's go to the Bible here for a minute on the number 11, because we have Daniel says he saw the 10 horns. Then he sees another one rising up out of that, the little horn. That would be number 11. Remember, in Genesis chapter 11 is the story of the Tower of Babel. Let's build a tower whose top may reach into heaven, joining heaven and earth together. That's what the whole thing about the beast is all about. Then we have, Revelation 9:11, that talks about the king who was slain.